everybody. It is Michelle with Moksha Grace Coaching, and I am joined by my beautiful daughter, Krista Barone.
Hello, everybody, and that's Krista Barone with Wicked Wisdom Consulting, which I will actually add to my name right now.
Yes, that would be a good idea. Did I spell coaching right? Yes, I did. That's a good thing. So, hi, everybody. It is time for a moment of presence, and maybe we should start with some breathing while we wait for everyone to join us.
I was just thinking the same thing. Given the topic of the day, probably a good idea to start with some deep breaths.
Yeah. So, all right. Woo! How about everybody put their hand on their hearts? Shake it off. Excess energy. And then big deep breath in. And we'll hold. And exhale. And another deep breath in. That good ass prana, as another Potter podcaster says. Exhale. And a deep breath in. Oh, yes. Prana. Okay, that was just funny. All right. So I'm being a little silly today because it is a serious topic today.
But it doesn't have to be.
It doesn't. It is, but it doesn't have to be.
Uh-huh.
We're going to lighten the mood a little bit about it. But it has been quite the 2024 for a lot of people, not just us, but for a lot of people.
Even specifically the last few months.
Yeah, I would say since March, it has been almost daily, one or two people that I'm hearing of, or pets, or it's just every day. And so I think, the first thing that I want to say is something that my coach reminded me of last night, which is do the things that are the most important. Whoever is your priority is your priority. Spend time with the people that you love, not because out of fear, but because you love them and because it's the right thing to do. There is plenty of time to do everything else. And you know what? I have had a to-do list with 8 things on it, and I've gotten 2 things done this week, and it's Thursday. And you know what? That's okay, because we had to shift priorities. Yesterday, we had a situation with our beloved parrot, and so we weren't on Shockingly Delightful. I apologize if you all were waiting, but we were at the emergency vet's office, and things didn't go the way we wanted them to. And he's now flying with the Eagles, and that is a very good thing. And squawking as much as he wants to.
I'm chuckling just for reference because we started this going, you know what, that's probably a little too fresh of a wound. Maybe we won't go into that.
Well, let's go into it. I mean, yeah. So my point is that there's always something, and you have to prioritize in the moment.
Mhm.
And I was just meaning to bring it up as an example of we had to pivot on the fly.
Mhm.
And so really take the time to call the people that you love, reach out to people that you want to check on. If you're getting a feeling to call someone or check on them, do it. Don't wait. And again, not out of fear, but when we're so tapped in and our energy is resonating where it should be, right, at a higher level, you're going to get these nudges from the divine and act on them.
Mhm.
Again, not from fear, but because you're being nudged, and follow it in love and reach out, whatever the situation may be. So I just wanted to put that out there because I think that's super important for people to remember, to be in the moment, and also to trust that things happen. We don't understand why. We don't understand how, but they do. And you can't spend all your time trying to be a detective and figure out everything, because there's going to be times where you're not going to know. And that's a lesson that I am in the midst of at the moment, of trying to not dive too deep. So, Krista, what would you like to say? Opening statement before we dive in.
I mean, I'll piggyback on what you were just saying. With in the case of our parrot that passed away yesterday, the last few weeks he started to become very clingy, and he wanted to be around me all the time. And I could have been like, ugh, ugh, he won't stop screaming. I'm just gonna, put him in his outside cage because I don't want to deal with it. Because parrots can be frustrating, and that's part of their charm. But instead, I was like, you know what? There's no reason why I can't have him in my office with me and keep him close. If that's what he wants and that makes him feel good, then that's what I'm going to do. And I'm really glad that I did,
Yeah.
because he obviously felt that his time was starting to approach, which, I mean, listen, there's plenty of people who are very aware of that as well, especially into their old age. If they're very tuned in and tapped in, they will know when time is getting closer. They can feel it. There's a certain energy of that. And truth be told, I felt it coming too. I've had a lot of anxiety and chest restriction in the last few weeks, and I could feel that something was coming, and I just didn't know what. Um, and as soon as we, got to the emergency room for him, I that went away, and I
Yeah.
realized that that's what I had been sensing. So both of us, me and our parrot, had been picking up that something was going to be happening soon.
Mhm.
And I'm actually pretty okay today. Um, we all had a great time with him.
Yeah, for 34 years.
I mean, he was older than I was, for God's sakes.
Yeah.
God bless him. That's great for a parrot.
Well, and I think that, you know, you know, my mom died last month. Her birthday's coming up. I also felt, right before then, that probably about a month before that, I was feeling very like time's ticking. Like all of a sudden there was like this urgency about everything.
Yeah,
And I couldn't put my finger on it. And I actually thought that maybe something was going to happen to me. Didn't really tell anybody that, but and it turns out that it was most likely my mom picking up, or me picking up on my mom. And I think that she also had some feelings as well, because reflecting now on some of the things that she said to different people, I think that she knew um, that something was changing and shifting.
yeah.
um, and I think that all of the work that we've done over the last, what, 4 years, 5 years,
Mm-hmm.
um, and probably a long journey,
Mm-hmm.
has really brought us to this place where death isn't something to fear, because obviously it's not bad for the person that passes, right? the
Oh no,
moment the
they are.
moment they're the moment that they're like, their body clicks off, they're in bliss, like, from what we know, and this is our belief, and you
Well,
certainly.
and quick caveat: it's something we talk about today is our personal beliefs and our perspectives on it. Other people have very different beliefs, and that's okay. This is merely meant to be a discussion of
Mhm.
our thoughts and the things that we've read and the things that we intuitively have been guided to feel and know. This isn't meant to be some controversial like battle of wits in the comments and stuff. Absolutely comment and let us know your thoughts as well. But this is meant to be a very positive conversation, not a who is right and who is wrong.
Right.
So I'm just going to set that disclaimer for the whole conversation so we don't have to keep saying it.
Hmm.
These are merely perspectives.
Yeah. And I think that our perspectives uh, have been built on a lot of experiences and research, in our own research, our own diving in and reading and learning different things.
And
And
our own personal experiences with
right.
the divine, the paranormal, the other, you know, entities that exist in our plane, however you want to say it.
Yeah. And it's something that it's kind of been put together
Mm-hmm.
from all of those different things, and whatever felt right, we just kind of like slipped into the section where it belongs, and then okay, what's next?
Yeah.
Grief is a bitch.
Yeah.
It's definitely a roller coaster ride. It is not linear by any means. um, Back in high school, I was in the first death and dying class, and we learned a lot about Kubler-Ross, and she talks about how, there's stages of grief. And what wasn't in the book, because I think back then she was very much, it's you go through the stages, and
Mm-hmm.
these are the stages, but it's not. It's like a freaking roller coaster. That's the only way I can.
Where we go through life, it's up, down, back and forth, two
Yeah.
steps forward, one step back, five steps forward, three steps back. It's all over the place, and there's no one set way to grieve. There's no one set way to handle it, and how someone else grieves is absolutely no testament to how they felt about that person, because it all comes down ultimately to what they believe about what happens after death. And it's interesting because if we think about it, death and dying is such this taboo topic that typically people don't want to talk about, and yet our individual beliefs on it kind of rule our life and how we live.
Yeah,
If you think about it, I mean, the people
absolutely.
who believe that we just go into the ground or turn into ash and go nowhere else, they can very likely live their life very differently than those who think that we go into the ethers, or those who believe that we go to this final destination, which is heaven or whatever you want to call it. It very much, I think, changes the way that you live your life
Yeah, yeah. And
and
for
how
me,
you grieve.
and how you grieve. I don't think that God took all the time to create humans, to put us all together in this amazing, crazy mechanical body of ours, and not machine mechanical, but just the way it works, very complex. I don't believe that we were put here just to live the 70, 80, 90, 100 years and then lay around in heaven hanging out under a tree. Like, it doesn't, that to me doesn't seem, I don't know, efficient. Not that I think that God like thinks about, like, I don't know, but it just seems like there's got to be more. So to think, for me to think that it's crossing like a doorway,
Mm-hmm.
like, okay, you just transition to the next phase. So it's almost like going to school. You change classes. You go to this class first, then you go to this class, then you go to that class, and then it's a progression, and you just go through these different doors, different realms, different whatever, and you just keep learning more and more and experiencing. And I think that's really what life is about, is experiencing. It's not just to get through it,
Mm-hmm.
because that's not fun.
Yeah.
It's the actual process, the moments that are in between, and that goes back to the poem The Dash. If you haven't read The Dash, you need to read The Dash, because you have your born date and you have your death date, but how did you live your dash? The dash in between. What was your life like?
Yeah.
And what did you do? And so life is really just, for me, it's about a journey, and that journey continues through the different doors.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I think it's interesting too, you touched briefly on whether you live to 60, 70, 80, 90, 100. It's such a testament to that there's no one way to live, that there is such significant variations in each individual's lifespan.
Yeah.
You have people who are absolute specimens of human beings who eat exactly perfectly, exercise to the T of what is recommended, and they drop dead at 35 while running.
Yeah.
But then you have Dolores from down the street, who's lived in the house since 1940, who smoked a pack a day since she was 16 and eats spam sandwiches, who lives until she's 105.
Right. Or the joke right now, Keith Richards, who has done.
Okay, let's not pretend he was some sort of physical. I mean, come on.
No, I'm saying that he's done all the like the unhealthy things.
Okay,
And
I was
he's
gonna say.
still doing. He's still living. And then you
Okay,
have Richard Simmons,
yeah.
who was the aerobics and
Oh,
health
that's who I was
guru.
talking about. I got names confused.
Yeah, no, I'm and just
Gotcha.
one is like still here. I'm rocking.
But
You know.
here's the interesting thing. There are some books that I've read, and the ideology behind it makes a lot of sense to me. That how long we live has more to do with our mindset and our ability to process things and get them out of our physical body than it does what we're consuming, how much we're exercising, all of those kind of things. Certainly, there's elements of that that can shorten your lifespan because you just can't get around eating McDonald's for breakfast, lunch, and dinner every single day. But I think there is something majorly to be said about the emotional and mental component of it, because if we look at those examples I gave, let's say the guy who's an absolute physical specimen, works out all the time, eats perfectly, there's probably, that sounds like if you're on that strict of a regimen, you're probably pretty tightly wound, maybe have a little bit of some sort of disordered eating if you're being that careful about it, some
Mm-hmm.
obsession tendencies. There's some stuff going on that maybe that person hasn't worked through if they're that intensely focused on something like that, versus Dolores down the street smoking a pack a day. Her life's motto has been
Right.
whatever. Like the story you tell all the time, good, bad, who knows? She's lived her life that way.
Right. Right. And she's lived it to its fullest. And hello, Mustafa. Nice to have you here. Let us know where you're joining us from. But glad to have you here. And there's going to be there's deaths of kids. I mean, babies. And, how I remember, thinking about that obviously when, you were going through treatment and it was like, what the hell? And there was like this anger that built up of like, what is going on? And there were kids that didn't make it. And you're like, what is that about? And then the more you study and the more you learn, some souls
Mm-hmm.
are meant to be in a physical body on earth,
Mm-hmm.
to be here to either teach a lesson to the people here,
Mm-hmm.
whether to teach them love, unconditional love, or endless love, um, but to somehow their time here, however little, however short, there's a purpose to it, but we just don't know what that purpose is right away. And we have to sometimes sit with it and think about, what did we learn or what did we gain? Yes, what did we lose? But when you think about, they just transitioned in, through the door, whatever that is, did we lose it? Or is that person always with us and now we can have a different relationship with them?
Yeah. Well, and I think there's also a part of this too, especially with kids or those that are lost in vitro, in the womb,
Utero.
in utero. Thank you. I know in vitro is wrong. That's how you. Yeah. Anyway, um, especially in those cases, the grief and the pain that we feel has more to do with us than it does with them. And that's even as we, losing a mom, losing a grandparent, losing a bird, losing a dog, whatever it is, the grief is still the same no matter who it is, but it very much has more to do with us
Mm-hmm.
than it does for the other person. And again, that's based on what you believe happens after, but for us and our way of thinking of it, it has more to do with me. I don't have you here with me. I don't have you to text every day or
Mm-hmm.
the dog to cuddle with every night. Um, because that being has moved on. That being is free, especially if they've been having physical ailments that have been very difficult for them.
Right.
They're free of that. And so the grief that we feel very often has more to do with us and what we're missing and what we no longer have than it does with that other person or animal, being, whatever it is. Or
And
even in jobs,
well,
even in relationships.
I was just about to go there.
I was reading your mind. Well, go ahead, take it away.
No, I was just going to say it can be somebody diagnosed with a chronic illness, right? Or something like uh, you're now a diabetic, and everybody in the house seemingly has to change their diet
Yeah.
for the child who's now been diagnosed, because having chocolate in the house with a kid that can't have chocolate would be really bad. And so, or losing a kidney, a son losing a kidney. This happened at the hospital a lot. There'd be a son who, or a daughter, that there was some chronic illness that then took away the hope of the parent for that child to be, that child was going to be a dancer, a football player, a baseball player, like the things that you kind of project that you hope that your kids get to experience. And so then you grieve the life that you thought you were going to have, instead of going, oh my goodness, you're here.
Yeah.
And I mean, I remember thinking that, yes, with you, and like even your hearing. And I was like, but who cares? She's here. So, and it's just very high frequency. But it was, what mattered was, but you would still be here. And so that's all that I thought about, and they're whatever. But
Well, and I think what's interesting too is, along with that, it also can be generational. I think a lot of those in my age group, specifically from millennials, there's a lot of grief in our generation of a lot of things that we expected that were just part of, not things to be handed to us expected, but things that we expected to just be part of life. Moving out, getting a house, being in a stable relationship, having kids, having all these things happen. And a lot of people in my age range have not been able to do that because of the economy, because of the socioeconomic things that are going on in the world. And there's a lot of grief that comes along with that because you're not able to have that dream that you always had, which was a very simple dream in a lot of cases. You just wanted to have a beautiful family and a home with a dog that could run around in your backyard. And that's not an option for you right now. And you don't know that it ever will be. And the grief that comes along with that is just the same as the grief of losing somebody.
yeah.
And especially in grief, grief is not something to say, well, my grief is worse than your grief. Someone could lose their spouse and not take it as hard as someone who lost their goldfish.
Right. It's all dependent on the person and their experience, what the meaning was to that relationship, whatever the relationship was or the situation. Because you're absolutely right. uh it's different for everybody, and no one should be judged. Don't judge somebody else on how they're grieving, or they picked up a new relationship too, what you would consider too soon after the death of their spouse, or a loved one. And you know I mean, I hate to say it, but it's the truth. Life goes on, the world is going to keep spinning, and things are going to progress. We're going to keep living, we're breathing. And there's a lot of people out there that have lost people, and they have stopped experiencing life.
Yeah.
They're breathing, they're waking up. Some get out of bed, some are very much in depression or just too sad. And that's part of the process. But is it doing the other person justice, that's probably on the other side of the door watching and going, come on, get out of bed, I can't do it anymore, but you can. That's kind of what I
Yeah.
think. And
Well, and that opens up a really interesting part of what we wanted to talk about today was, are there ways to continue having relationships with these people, these beings, these things that we lose? Is there a way to do that? So, that concept of your, spouse yelling at you, get out of bed, go have fun, from the other side, that very well does happen.
Yeah. Yeah. And how many times have I walked out of my office because there's a cardinal right outside of my office on the tree, like almost calling me out there to come out and, just see it, say hi, whistle back, and then it flies off. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and it could be, at this point, a parade of people. Um, and that I like establishing and seeing what this new relationship
Mm-hmm.
with all of our loved ones, pets that have passed, and how they're showing up,
Mm-hmm.
because they are. I've
I was just about to say it's very much a matter of you being in a state to recognize it and being open to recognizing it,
Yeah.
in the sense of, I saw a post one time that said, not related to grief in any way, but it was like, um, my microwave said 444 on it, and it was like, sorry that you can't be, inspired by your microwave, but I can. It's kind of the same concept of, like, you could very well walk outside, see a cardinal, and be like, oh, a cardinal, cardinals live here, that's cool.
Yeah.
But you're open to the possibility of seeing more than that. Not that you're even necessarily reading into something, but you're open that there's meaning beyond what we just see in front of us.
Right. Right.
There's so many different things that can happen. Maybe you're sitting somewhere and you really feel overwhelmed about someone that you've lost, and you just think to yourself, if they're here, I wonder if they'd make the light flicker. And the light flickers, they're probably saying hi.
Yeah.
Or
Absolutely.
you see a cardinal, or you see, I know someone who there's a certain number that they really associate with someone close to them. Every time they see that number, that means something to them. That's a
Hmm.
connection that they still have
Hmm.
with that person.
And my mom has made herself very
Yes.
known.
Yes.
I have received songs that I had never heard before that were all of a sudden playing on my playlist, and I'm like, how did that get there? Uh, and I know specifically because of the message and because of the artist, I know that it was my mother. I
Right.
know that I had a dream, and I have this this to-do list was from her. Like, she gave me these ideas in the middle of the night. Could it have been my psyche? Sure, yeah, I guess so. I remember in my dream actually saying, like, okay, if this is really you, show me a memory that only you and I would know, like, I was testing it.
Yeah.
um and I did. I got a very vivid memory of, me at 3 with a puppy, that something that I don't actually remember, but when I saw it, I was like, yeah, that's how that happened. um and so I think that it's about being open to having a different form, a different kind of relationship, but you're still connected.
Yeah.
It's not that you're not connected, you are.
Yeah.
And it's just, are you willing to embrace that and be open to that?
And explore it and see what it means to you. And it's also about finding what the new version of your life looks like.
Right.
And honestly, that's, this is just the first, every week in August, what the plan is, whether I'm on or not, is you're going to talk, basically every week, you're going to talk about a different type of life transition, because
Yeah.
so much transition happens in our lives, whether it's someone passing on, taking on new roles, whether that's caregiver,
Hmm.
career, relationship,
Yeah.
things to do with your children. There's so many different transitions that we go through, and it's not, usually for most people, it's not very easy to navigate, because, newsflash, you've never been here before that you can remember.
That you can remember. And
Right.
the one thing that we all can absolutely count on every moment of every day, every second, is change. And change can death is a form of change. Change is a form of death. Transition. It's the same thing. As we go through our emotional journey and we're on our spiritual journey, there's a lot of talk about, tower moments and going into the dark night of the soul. And it sounds so scary. All it means is that you're knocking down everything you thought was true
Mhm.
and you're rebuilding your truths. You're letting go of your limiting beliefs. You're learning who you are right now. Because with every transition, death, dark tower, whatever you want to call it, you change
Yeah.
and you have to find a new identity. And me finding my new identity after, for a long time, it was taking care of my mom taking care of me, but me taking care of my mom and feeling responsible and feeling all of this pressure and weight on my shoulders. And without that, who the heck am I now?
Hmm.
And as somebody reminded me the other day, now that that's not there, what am I going to fill my time with? What am I going to choose to
Hmm.
do now
Hmm.
with this new space?
Yeah.
And I don't know yet. And that's okay.
Yeah.
That's okay.
Yeah.
And
And what I'm noticing you've said a lot is it sounds like you've also connected to and reached out to multiple people to help you through this process.
yes, you can't just sit back in your little freaking comfort zone that's uncomfortable by yourself, isolate yourself, and think that no one is going to understand. Because guess what? Everybody is going through it. They may not be talking about it, but they're all going through it in some way, shape, or form, whether it's a career or a relationship or a family member or a pet, whatever it is. Even with politics, like, we're all learning that things are not what they originally seemed
Yeah.
when we first became aware of life. And that's okay. It's not something, and anxiety is a big thing. We get anxious of the unknown. Oh my God, but what's next? I don't know what's next.
Hmm.
But that's okay. You're
Yeah.
not supposed to. You're supposed to have trust. And that's when you're supposed to dive more into your flavor of the divine and just say, take me where I'm supposed to go. Tell me what I'm supposed to know. Give me nudges. Just guide me.
Yeah.
Because I'm just giving it all. Carrie Underwood said it best: Jesus, take the wheel. Whatever you believe in, I don't care. That is a great song because that's exactly what we're talking about here. It's like, I'm giving it over.
Hmm.
Just, I trust, and just let me, you lead. I'm just walking behind you. I'm just going to follow, like, whatever I'm supposed to do. Um, so what doesn't die? What doesn't die?
Well, energy cannot be created nor destroyed, it's always moving. I mean, that's an argument for the fact that no one ever dies. Their soul goes on to somewhere else. The energy that is your body can't just disappear. It just transmutes into something else. So
And
really, you could argue that nothing dies.
well, I was
Even
just going to say, it's not even just human bodies. It's
no. Think about what
trees.
happens in forests. When a tree dies, what happens? It falls over. Fungi get involved. Bacteria get involved. They break it down. That goes into the soil. It feeds the fungi. It feeds the bacteria. It feeds new trees that are going to be born. The energy continues on and it cycles and it cycles and it cycles. Interestingly enough, there's a lot of things that human beings have, do, and are that are mirrored in things around us. So maybe that's something that's a testament to what happens to us when we pass.
Right. Yeah, I agree with you. What was that show that we watched that's on, I think it's on Prime? Um, Magical Fungi or Magnificent Fantastic Fungi. I think it's
Like that.
Fantastic Fungi. Um,
Very good.
that show was I thought it was about fungi. Like, I thought really we were just talking mushrooms and nature. It shows you a whole spiritual journey and how we're all connected, and it's a great um, way to kind of dive into seeing how energy is connected, and this goes to Mother Earth, and what's happening with uh, everything around you, the trees, the dragonflies, the butterflies, the birds, everything, um, even the weeds, everything.
Yeah,
uh, and so yeah, energy, and this is universal law. And it's very scientific. Energy travels, it doesn't die. So why would we think that it just stops? It's got to go somewhere. The body doesn't, but the energy goes on.
absolutely. And if you are going through somebody passing that's close to you, or whether that's a person, an animal, a situation, um, what can you do to help them, Michelle?
the
It's on the bottom
biggest
of the
the
screen.
biggest huh
It's on the bottom of the screen.
It's on the bottom of the screen. What can you do? um you can join.
Yeah, what can you do?
I'm thinking like you're talking about, like, okay, well, we call hospice and
No,
we
that's
sit
a
next to
whole
them.
other conversation for
Yes.
another day. We don't
Okay.
have time for that.
So what I have done, that life has inspired us, or me and us, and then this has inspired this conversation and this month long conversation, is the new monthly subscription, and it is called the Odonata Community. Uh, as I've mentioned, and as you can see, dragonflies are very important to me, and dragonflies go through a transition. It's a
And
beautiful.
odonata is the scientific name for dragonfly, just to make
Thank
that
you for
connection
that.
for you.
Hmm. And so Odonata, which is dragonflies and damselflies,
Hmm.
start out in the water. They don't know that they have wings, and they have to climb their way out. All their other little friends, their little water bugs underneath, they all think that they've gone somewhere and they're never coming back. Sound familiar? And all of a sudden, the dragonfly dries out, the wings unfurl, and all of a sudden they can fly, and they get to dip into the water, and they get to like go and be free and live this completely different life. Sound familiar? Um, and so I started the Odonata community because we are all going through transitions. Whether you're passing a certain age, because that's always fun. And, I hear that all the time. Oh my God, I'm going to be 50. Yeah, 50 is 50 fun. It's all mindset. And so I decided to start this because I wanted to help as many people as I can. And whatever transition you're going through is going to be something that we can talk about and we can support each other. I'm going to be coaching every single week. It's Thursday nights, so it is tonight. And I would love for you to join me. Come in and test it for a month. If you've never had coaching and you're kind of like, what the heck is this? And it's kind of scary, guarantee you 1 month is going to change a lot. And you'll be really surprised at how much you can do in a month. And if you want to continue, great. And that'll be awesome, because it is a community that we're building, and it's like minded, and we're all going through similar journeys, whether we want to embrace it or not. We are. And so
And
that's what
we're always going through a journey. There's
we're.
always changes. The only thing that you can rely on is change. So there's always new things that are coming up.
And guess what? You can't control your journey, by the way. Uh, you can just keep taking steps forward, whether they're little baby steps, whether they're big, gigantic, what was that big jump that we used to take in school? I forget, that in field day and stuff.
My
Um,
brain went because you said little baby steps. My brain went to the bears with the porridge. I was like, Mama and Papa steps.
I was feeling, I think it's the broad jump. I think that's what it was called. But anyway, you can take big jumps, you can take, big leaps, you can take little leaps, but the bottom line is that you continue to move forward, and that's what coaching is. We don't go backwards into the deep dark recesses of what happened to you when you were 2. We may take a look at it, but we're not going to dive too deep into it because that would be therapy, and I am not a therapist, and I don't pretend to be on TV. So I told you I was going to be a little silly today. So does anyone have any questions or anything that they want, to mention or bring up? Because that's what we're here for. And this is an engagement type of conversation. Um, and so, join us each week as we go through August talking about this and have
Not
it a little,
every week isn't going to be death and dying. By the way, it's
yeah.
different topics.
Different transitions,
Yeah.
different life transitions. So that's what we are talking about. If you know somebody that should be here, that would would benefit from this, please share this out. I mean, this isn't just for, the community that's established. Share it out to people that need to have this or hear this conversation. Because there are a lot of people out there hurting, and not that we should all sit around and hurt together, because that's called trauma bonding, and we don't want to do that. But we want to recognize where we all are and inspire each other to take baby steps forward.
Yeah.
And that's what this is about. So, uh, Krista, where can people find you? What exactly can you help them with? What kind of transitions?
Um, all the operational transitions that people need in their businesses. And you can find me on LinkedIn and at wickedwisdomconsulting.com. Or if you're looking for, a little bit more than just some part-time help, you can reach out to me about that too, and we'll see what we can take care of.
I love it. I love it. And I can be found at mokshagrace.com, in all social media under Moksha Grace. And go over to the website and you can get more details about the Odonata community and the subscription. You can join up today and be on the call tonight and have some coaching. I would love to meet with you. And yeah, I will hope to see you all there. Otherwise, we will see you next week for Shockingly Delightful.
Wednesday.
Yes, which is on Wednesdays at 12, and then also for Moment of Presence on Thursdays. And what is next week's transition? I think I saw
Yes.
career next.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, because that's a big thing, especially as we get older. We start kind of getting really nervous about what's going on at our job, and are we going to have a job, and do we want to continue? Some people wake up and go, holy crap, I'm 55 and I never did what I wanted to do when I was a kid. And how do you do that now? There's some people that have been laid off and they're looking around going, what's next? I don't even know what I want to do. And I have some simple techniques and strategies around being playful with it and helping you carve out who you are now and what your next steps might be. So definitely join us next week because we'll have some fun talking about that. Anything else?
No, I think that covers it all. If anyone has any questions, comments, put it in the comments and we'll respond.
Absolutely. And thank you all for being here. Don't forget to take your deep breaths, be kind and graceful with yourself. Give yourself some grace. And whatever it is that you're going through, know that you are not alone. And every day you wake up, it can be a good day or a bad day. It is your choice. So choose wisely. Talk to you next week.